Alright, let's bring it in here. Whoosh. Ah, I love those transmissions. Those transitions are so fun. Hello there, I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see people here on this here Monday, day of days. It's a Monday. It's Monday. Week's getting started here. And I don't know about everyone else, but I'm actually pretty ready for just a normal week here. I had an adventurous weekend. My parents got themselves a new kitten, which is always fun and exciting. But we began the process of introducing this new kitten to my cat, who is frequently over at my parents' place when I am there. So that way I don't have to try and find a cat sitter or anything of that nature. So we had to do an introduction, and cats can be quite difficult to introduce to one another. So that was an adventure. Sometimes, you know, I mean, it went as well as one can hope for such things to go. So, you know, no one assaulted each other. There was just lots of growling and pouting in various rooms away from each other between the two cats. So, you know, it was what it was. Things certainly could have gone a lot worse, but there was also a lot of chaperoning and being around and keeping eyes on cats to make sure that no fights broke out or anything of that nature. So, it was a weekend. It was a weekend. But it was the type of weekend that makes me pretty happy to be back here in my streaming setup, so we can just kind of get back to this part of my life, which has become one of the most consistently enjoyable and pleasant parts of my life. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get ourselves over to doing some writing here. Bring our scene over here. There we are. Perfect. Good to go. Alright, so today for today's writing stream, we are going to get back to writing our campaign, this long campaign that we've been working on for quite some time now. I don't remember the exact date that we started, but it was definitely last summer. So it's been quite the quite the project, and we're somewhere probably around the halfway mark. Maybe not quite that far, depending on how much additional side quest type of stuff I decided to add to this campaign. But as far as just the basics and the necessities go, I'd say we are probably somewhere around halfway through it. And yeah, I'm content to sit here and work a little bit more on it. Just to give a super fast overview for those of you who are newer, especially if there are people checking out the VODs on YouTube and so don't get the opportunity to just ask questions about what's going on, which I always welcome. I'll just give a quick rundown. So the campaign that we're working on takes place in my homebrew world called Zaoria, which is what we're looking at right now. This is the map that I've worked on, and this is a world that I've just slowly built and added things to for the better part of a decade at this point in time in my life. I started, really depending on how early we add, like how early little short stories I've written that I have in mind a place in here that they can exist. I've been working on this since high school, so this is a very, very, very long form project of mine. Though this campaign that we're working on is a new one, but it takes place in this world, and this world is a post-apocalyptic one where all sorts of different just sort of rifts in reality were ripped during an event called the Unhinging, and all kinds of different realms from the ether, the ethereal realms, the elemental planes, all that kind of stuff were sort of commingled with the mortal realm, the material realm. Material plane. I don't know. It's like 15 thesaurus words that you can interchange to all mean the same thing. But you understand what I'm saying. Things kind of went a little crazy in there, and it resulted in all of the world getting thrown into a lot of chaos. And then pretty much everything that I write takes place a couple thousand years after that initially happened, when things are starting to sort of calm down after all of that. And the world is sort of entering a state of relative return to normalcy, where a lot of the cities. So when that happened, pretty much everyone had to flee to one of a handful of cities in order to find protection from all of the weird, chaotic magic and monsters that showed up. And so now we are a couple thousand years later. Things are calming down, and a lot of efforts to reclaim the world are taking place. And that's kind of where our campaign begins. We have a city. I'll zoom us in here. We have a city up here, Fosvik, that is pretty isolated up here, and based on the established trade routes that have managed to be functional through all of this time of upheaval, they only have one to trade with another city over here, but they want to expand that for a lot of obvious reasons. So there's an effort to do so, and build or establish, map out a guardable route between Fosvik and the city of Muffafetting down here. And that's where we kind of begin. Our players for this campaign are part of that effort that has made it to about this hex right here on our map. And so we can pull up our specific map for that hex. Right, this is the region that we're working on here, and this is about how far they've made it. We can see our pathway going down. And our players are part of this effort when they find out that the Goldenwind Plains down here, this part of the map, so we can zoom out a little bit. This part of the map down here, our Goldenwind Plains, is actually the domain of a adult dragon, who is not super thrilled about humanoids coming in and messing up his territory. He's found, based on all of the old archives and stuff that he's kind of had free reign over because people were shoved out of their old homes, he has kind of learned that humanoids and their type tend to be very, very damaging to environments, as well as very likely to fight with each other and cause wars. And this dragon doesn't really want that happening in his area. So he swoops down and says, "Oi, I don't want you here, get out of here." And then the humanoids will, the people that are part of this effort will say to the dragon, "Well, look, we're just trying to establish a trade route. Is there some way that we can cut a deal with you that you'll let us actually work on this trade route?" And so the dragon will say to them, "Well, okay, there's this Hall of Wisdom over here that I'm trying to get access to. It's been sealed with magic, and you need 4 keys to get in, and I'm too busy overseeing my domain to actually go search for these keys. So if you find me these keys, then I will let you build your trade route, and you can kind of go about your trade business as long as that's all you're going to do. So our players, being good, agreeable players, will accept this call to action, call to adventure, and begin searching for these keys. Now, we've already written the first part of this process, finding the first key, which is hidden among the giant territories up in the mountaintops over here. And so they go through and they find that one. And then the next clues that they'll eventually find are that the next key was hidden somewhere with these dwarves down in the abandoned city of Cogdoral. The city was abandoned during the unhinging and all that stuff. The mountains were not a very good place to be when all of these rips in reality were torn asunder. It kind of just turned into like a magical pressure cooker inside of this mountain, and so things kind of went haywire fast. So dwarves tried to escape, and they just kind of left this city abandoned. So our players show up there, and then they find that it's not so abandoned anymore. The Duergar have kind of taken over and are like, hey, free city, I guess we'll take this. And so they're down there, and there's a few different misadventures for them to possibly do, depending on what they want to do when they get there. But ultimately, they will find that the next clue, or the next key, is most likely in this part of the city, the Dwarven treasure vaults, where pretty much everything of wealth that the dwarves had was locked away. And that's the part of the campaign where we currently are. We're writing we're writing out the process of our players going through the tunnels to get to this vault to hopefully find a key, is what they're attempting to do. And ultimately, as long as we're not being too rude to our players, we'll allow them in some way, shape, or form to achieve that. But that's kind of what we're doing. That's where we've left off. We have, let me organize my tabs down here just a little bit better. We have our dungeon sort of partially made. We've begun the process of making all of this stuff. And yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to work on continuing to flesh all of this stuff out. Yeah, with all of that taken care of, all of that sort of introductory stuff, I suppose we'll get to it. So one thing I've been thinking a lot about is trying to make sure, even on stream, I try to not worry too much about how fast we get through stuff on stream, because I like using the stream as an opportunity for, if people come in here and have questions about my methods, about processes, have ideas, or want advice on things, that I'm ready to answer that. I mean, to me, that's the value of streaming this, rather than just working on it quietly on my own. That said, I want to make sure I'm making progress in all of this stuff, like tangible, measurable progress, because I know there are some days where I just kind of get rambling about things without even needing questions to be asked. I just start blabbering. So I'm going to start trying to sort of establish at the beginning of a stream an intended amount of progress to make, so that way we can hopefully stay focused and actually get at least that much stuff done, and maybe up the pace that we get this campaign done. Not because I'm desperately trying to be done with this project, but more so that there are a lot of other projects that I would like to eventually kind of get to on stream. And I'd like to kind of keep things fresh and keep us working on a lot of different things, so a lot of people can see different writing processes for different settings, different games, all kinds of different stuff, is what my ultimate goal is here. So with that in mind, I'm just going to start making a habit of, at the beginning of a stream, just kind of off to the side here. You guys can't see it because all my stuff is in the way, so let me just bring our box down here to a place where you can see it. We'll put it right here, and I'll do my best to try and remember to keep our checklist down invisible. I could just put like a little window for the stream that's just like a text box that shows our goals, but I feel like that would be complicated, and I don't want that to accidentally slow down the stream at all. So we're just going to put it on here, and I'll do my best to slide it down so you guys can always see it too, so that you guys can kind of help keep me honest. But I want to do a checklist of what I'm trying to achieve here. And I think what I'd like to do for today is I'd like to just be done with up through room 6 by the end of the day, just writing out all of the details here. That's 4 rooms. I figure if we can kind of get to a point where for any of these steps within a chapter, because like we have, you know, my general structure for any given campaign is we have our campaign with the intended number of levels it's supposed to get through. This campaign is going from level 1 to level 10 for our players. And when I say level 1 to level 10, I mean at the end of it they should be around level 11 at least, so if they wanted to continue on, that's the level they would pick up at. And so for each of those, any given one of those levels, right, I kind of break up each level for our players into a chapter, so that way everything contained within that chapter is guided for that group of 5 players at that level. So that way if they kind of wander in and around, they're not going to accidentally get themselves put into a place where suddenly they're in a place that's intended for level 10. It's like we give them enough guidance to say like, okay, we'll kind of nudge them in the direction of this area that we've, you know, this chapter of the campaign that we've thrown together, which is for level 3s, you know, and so at the level 3 they can kind of explore in here. And then within that, I kind of break things into 10-room dungeons. Sometimes it ends up being much bigger than that. There's like, I use 3 sets of 10 rooms to make one bigger dungeon, or sometimes I break it out and meter it out into a few different things and try to break it up that way. And so the upshot, the reason I'm explaining this is I'd like to kind of get into a habit of, for any given stream, if we're, say, working on, so we're on stage 4 here, right? This is stage 4, part 4 of this chapter 5 segment. Each one of these stages that encompasses about a 10-room dungeon in some way, shape, or form will take maybe 3 streams. 1 to get all of the background baseline stuff, figure out what our enemies are, what all of our random encounter tables are going to be, all that kind of stuff. That's 1 stream to get that done. 1 stream to get half of the rooms fleshed out in detail, and then another stream to get the other half done. So that way we can kind of make progress. That's kind of what my goal is. And it's really fun sitting here talking about what my goals for each stream are, because I know in my heart that I will never really be able to keep to it, because I have so much fun talking about all of the other stuff that goes into writing and streaming and all that kind of stuff. So I'm unlikely to be able to keep up with that all the time. But if we at least try, perhaps sometimes we'll do it and it'll be good. Plus, it's good when you're writing, when you're working on any project in general. It's good to strike a balance between not making yourself feel too pressured to do it, because you don't want the pressure to take away from the fun. You don't want to get to a point where you dread working on these things that are meant to be your passion, something that you really love doing. And for me, that's these writing things. I love doing this. I don't want to get to a point where I dread doing that, so I don't want to push myself too hard. But the flip side of it is if I never put any pressure on myself, if I never expect anything of myself, that's when you run into those situations where you're just not getting anything done, right? Maybe it's because you get too used to hemming and hawing over what you want to work on next. Maybe sometimes it has more to do with just thinking of, I don't know, like I guess I don't need to belabor the point. Really, just what it comes down to is it's good to set small goals for yourself, so that way you can kind of keep yourself on track. And that's what I want to try to do here. Like a lot of the reason why I love streaming this is because I love being able to sort of provide examples of how I do this and how one can go about writing for D&D, because I know a lot of people want to but don't know where to begin. And since I've already kind of covered that part, I like demonstrating that for people. And so I'm trying to demonstrate good habits that will, at the very least for me, keep me the most productive. So with that really long, unproductive rant completed, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what I'm talking about here. And it's real easy. All we need to do is we can just say room 3 done, room 4 done, room 5 done, and then room 6 done. You can just kind of set this up here. This is our checklist, and what we can do in OneNote that's really handy is we can make this a to-do list, and so we can just make it so that we can just put in little check marks once we've done everything. So our goal is to have everything checked off. It's quick and easy. It's just a good way to keep yourself thinking about things. And one of the important things about this too is to be honest with yourself, right? There's no punishment. It's not like I'm getting fired. I'm not going to fire myself and never stream again if I don't achieve this, right? So be honest with yourself when you're doing these types of things. Don't just like quickly throw down a really crappy room because you're at the end of your time and you're trying to get room 6 done. Just acknowledge that, hey, I didn't get room 6 done today. That's okay. I'll just try to work a little bit more efficiently tomorrow. And kind of keep yourself going in that front, right? Again, you don't want to overdo it and make yourself hate the process, but you don't want to get too wrapped up in taking your time, because that's a good recipe for never finishing anything at all. And I've found myself in those situations where I get too lackadaisical about, or lackadaisical? Yeah, it's lackadaisical, I think. I don't know, that word. Get too relaxed about making progress, and 2 years will go by and I haven't written anything particularly tangible. Meanwhile, in times when I'm DMing a game, I can get crap done in a week that might otherwise take me months to get done, because suddenly there's a deadline involved, right? So it's like trying to find that balance and make sure you put some pressure on yourself to at least keep progressing. So that's why I'm going to start trying to keep this little checklist in place here. And like I say, I'll just do my best to remember to pull it down so we can all see it and you guys can help me stay honest in my to-do list here today. But okay, I've rambled and ranted about it more than is necessary, and everyone is probably thinking, oh my god, get on with it. So that's what I'm going to do. So room 3 here is going to be, the danger involved in this room, we've already predetermined, is going to be an easy battle. So we'll just go ahead and figure out all of the details that we need for that. So the approximate amount of experience points, I determine the difficulty of a battle based on experience points, which is just kind of a slightly more broken down and mathematically involved version of using challenge rating. And I know there are an infinite number of opinions on how good or bad challenge rating is and how to use it. So whenever you see me using this type of stuff and using my method, recognize this is my method for how I run games. It may not work for you in the way you run games, and that is 100% okay. It's expected, and it should be like that. You should find your own approach. This is just my approach, and it's one way to do it. But if you're wondering why the heck I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, it's because that's just the way I've settled on, and it works for my games and the way I like to balance my encounters. So with that in mind, an easy battle here is going to be worth about 800 experience points. So we're going to put a note about that here. We may make that a little more or a little less. That's not a steadfast number. Like that's not inflexible. It's just a place to start and for us to think about what we want to do. So with 800 experience points, we could do, let's see, we've got a few different, we've predetermined the monsters that are going to be in here as well. And I do that at the very beginning. I do that part really at the very beginning of an entire chapter, because I like a self-contained chapter to sort of have a consistent feel and consistent theme to it. I find that helps create a much more cohesive atmosphere for players, and it helps them really sort of get into the mood and really start feeling involved with the story that you're telling within this section of a campaign, because a single campaign can span dozens of different atmospheres and everything, but when you're within a certain area, you want to stay consistent with that. It helps players sort of emotionally invest in the region they're in. It's like it's too jarring if you're jumping from snow to lava to ocean to desert, right, all back and forth without any sort of consistency. But if you stay involved in one area, players start really feeling like they're invested in that area. And the other thing too is if your monsters are kind of consistent, they start feeling like they understand how to survive an area better. So they start actually feeling like they're, and not even just feeling, like they actually do start handling things better, so you can throw harder challenges at them because they're starting to learn the beats. They're starting to understand how to go about this area. So that's all been sort of predetermined very purposefully. And so with that in mind, we have our monsters sort of predetermined here. We're working with Steeders and Kruthiks, right? Because the theme of this tunnel thing is very much like spider creatures are kind of having the run of the tunnels here, and so that kind of gives us our atmosphere, our feel for it. Our players know that there's going to be spidery-like things, and they can start adjusting their mindsets, how they approach rooms, how they investigate things, how they handle and prepare, and what weapons they have drawn based on that. So it's good to have that, and that's the way we've set up this particular section here. So if we've got 800 experience points to work with, the only thing I really limit myself to when it comes to deciding what monsters go in battles, once we've predetermined all of this stuff, is I just try to make sure that no two rooms have the same exact enemy composition. While there will be the same enemies, the same 4 types of enemies scattered around, I like to make sure that the combination of those enemies is different from room to room. So that way everything always feels a little different, and everything might have a slightly different strategy that'll work best. Keeps players on their toes, makes it fun, and a little too... It helps things from getting too monotonous, helps stop that from happening. So, but we don't have any easy rooms figured out yet, so we can kind of just do what we want. We could do a singular phase spider, which would be a little under our 800 marker. We could do 2 Kruthiks, which would be a little over. Or we could take the really easy route and just do 4 Steeders and get ourselves smack on with our 800 experience points. And I kind of think I'm just going to do that one, honestly, just to start off easy and straightforward. So we'll go ahead and do that. So 4x female Steeder here. It's not. I wouldn't probably insist upon it all being female versus male, but that's how we know what stat block to look for. But just because they're all female, and it would be weird if I always specified female, and because I don't think I have anywhere in this dungeon male, because it was just that's how the challenge ratings and the monsters I was needing kind of panned out, and I don't want to accidentally lead my players into a complete and utter red herring that's a complete lie. And if you just keep saying, oh yeah, it's all female Steeders, then they're going to be thinking well, what's going to happen with the male? Where are we looking for those things? And they're going to be expecting a boss battle when there isn't one. And while I love doing misdirections for my players, I much prefer it to be directly related to something that is there, as opposed to anything else. So I don't know. That's probably more detail than is necessary about why I'm doing what I'm doing, but that's what we're gonna make this battle. I always make sure and make a note about the amount of experience points for the individuals as well as for the monsters on at large, or the battle at large, just so that way it's easy to know how many experience points to give them. And then by doing the separate ones here, I like to not be afraid to have monsters run away and or somehow avoid battle if it feels like they're going to die. Most monsters, creatures, especially anything with any sort of intelligence, are probably not just going to sit there in a situation they know they're going to die. So I like to have monsters that will try to escape, and if they do, I like to know how many experience points to not give players if they fail to kill something. So that's why I always put that there. But that's going to be our enemy composition there. And then the other thing here is we always make sure to put some sort of reward into a room. That reward doesn't have to be some sort of tangible item. It can just be information. It can be clues. It can be a key item. It can be money. Whatever it is, just something good. Some reason that they would care to bother clearing out the room other than experience points, right? Some reason that they would want to be involved in whatever they'd want to face whatever danger is here. And that's really helpful, especially when you have a group that is particularly into the role-playing aspects of things. If you get players that are very into making sure they don't do something with their character that their character wouldn't want to do, you want to make sure and provide a reason for them to want to go through these rooms. And that doesn't necessarily mean make it so that there's a clear treasure chest sitting in the center of the room. But for me, what that manifests a lot is you do that early in the campaign, right? For the first dungeon, you make sure every room has a lot of obvious stuff, and you just kind of train your players to recognize that, hey, if you clear out this room and search around, more likely than not, you're going to find something of value here. And that really helps players kind of get into the idea and the habit of actually exploring the dungeons that you make, which is good for dungeon masters, not just because it makes us feel good that they've bothered to look through all of the things that we lovingly created for them, but it also helps us make sure we can provide an in-depth and interesting experience for them. If they're just running through, beelining for the boss, then it kind of just turns into a roll the dice and kill things game, and it doesn't have much story to it, which is fine, but most people would probably agree defeats a lot of the purpose of why we do D&D versus anything else. So at any rate, we've got ourselves a battle here, and so the reward here is going to be a compass, which is a mechanic that I add. It's a very gamey mechanic. There's not always a good canon lore reason for why these items exist here, but my players enjoy having these items, so I just kind of put them in there and don't worry too much about the reason why it should make sense that it's there. It's a compass in the sense of the Legend of Zelda style dungeon design, where a compass is an item that in some way, shape, or form will tell you if there's something of value in a room. And my players like that for both sides of the same coin. One, to know if they go into a room, if they should keep searching for something. Or the opposite, too, is true, where sometimes they'll find themselves feeling like, maybe because I as DM worded something some way on purpose or on accident, or because people are weird and they fixate on things, whatever the reason is, a lot of times they end up in a situation where they feel like they need to keep searching a room. There's got to be something. I got to find something. I keep looking for something. And there's just nothing there. So if we give them this compass that will tell them where there is and isn't value within the dungeon, a lot of times that'll help them let go of a room that they need to just go. They need to just leave. There's nothing there. There's actually nothing there. So that's why I've kind of incorporated this, and my players seem to enjoy it. So we'll put in here some sort of compass, and I like to have it be something that thematically makes sense. At the very least fits the atmosphere. Even if it doesn't really make sense why it would be there, if it at least fits the atmosphere, that's good. Because I also only have them be good for whatever particular dungeon they're in at the moment. So a lot of times it can include some sort of map that includes markings. That one can be hard because a lot of times the rewards I like to add aren't things that someone would put on a treasure map. The rewards can be lost items from someone who was exploring it in the past. Rewards can be lore-based items that it's like no one's going to put a mark that says important lore information to my culture. It's like, no, that's not how it works. But I'll do that, or sometimes I'll do an item that can be like, I think a lot about the Jack Sparrow compass that always just points to your heart's desire. I'll include some sort of item like that just sort of like indicates where you should go to find something of value. And in this dungeon, I've been using items that are kind of a little... Again, it's hard to, in lore, explain exactly why it would work exactly as it does. But basically, I've kind of invented an item. You know what? I just realized something. Oh, it won't put it over there because it's part of the page. I was just thinking about my checklist, and it's like, man, if I could have it hovering over here, but that's not actually part of the page. I'm just trying to make sure like it's visible everywhere. But we could. I wonder if we can. Here we go. If we do that and at least put it over here, at least this way, it stays visible around our chat box over here. The chat box keeps getting longer, and I'm worried it's going to disappear. But at any rate, so the compass that we've been using is an item that does that. I'm thinking I want to step away from it and just kind of come up with something a little different. And it can just be like a little bit magical. But we're going to get to that in a second. I want to describe the room and kind of figure out what this room is going to look like from a danger point of view. So we're working on this chamber right here, room number 3. It's going to be small, which makes the battle field quite cramped, which is fine. I like doing that. I like having a mix of cramped and then wide open battlefields, just to kind of give things different feels. And help players again be able to use different tools and help different characters shine and stuff like that. Like this cavern does not have many long range opportunities, but that's fine compared to some of the other parts of this map, which have much longer alleyways that someone could be able to try and get a nice bow and arrow shot going or something along those lines. But at any rate, we're working on this room here. It's a tight room, and we're going to have 3 steeders, which are spider-like, tarantula-like creatures, but they don't produce web, so we don't need to worry about decorating it with web or describing that. Really what we can do with this one, what I kind of am thinking, would be fun and grotesque. Fun. It depends on who you're talking about and how you define fun. What I'm thinking is we could set up this room so that like we have our steeders here, and maybe something happened, like usually the Duergar like to use them as steeds, right? They ride them around tunnels, at least in lore as written, which I played pretty fast and loose with since it's a homebrew world. But we can use that idea, we can utilize that concept, and instead reverse it in that maybe something happened to one of the riders, one of these Duergar trying to ride these things, and that rider died, and make it unclear whether or not that rider was killed by its steeder or just died afterwards, and like the steeder's doing like, you know, a cat will do, or it just like eats the person, but they go in and they find these steeders eating a Duergar or something. That would add a nice little bit of grotesquerie to this dungeon, which I'm okay with. I kind of want this place to feel creepy and uncomfortable and unpleasant for players. It's kind of the point of doing anything underground, you know. Like, if you don't want it to be creepy, stay above ground in the sun. So I kind of feel like taking that angle here. If our monsters are going to be distracted, I'm going to put a DM note here and say, stealth DC. Well, actually, I'm not even going to put stealth. We're just going to say DC 12 to enter chamber without being noticed by the monsters, because they are distracted with eating the body of a Duergar. So we can just kind of put that there. I always try to decide ahead of time whether or not it's going to make sense for players to be able to stealth into a room, because they will always want to. And you can always let them roll, even if it's going to be an impossibility. But if you if you always let them stealth through everything, then it's hard for you to be able to set up traps, and it's hard for it to feel super realistic. If everyone can just sort of like quietly open a door and successfully sneak in, no matter what the situation is, it's going to feel a little easy to abuse that system. So I always try to really actually think about, would it make sense for someone to be able to sneak into this room? Right, if there's 2 people standing guard in this room, then probably not, right? It doesn't matter what you do. But in this situation, if all the enemies are distracted doing something, then sure, we can let that happen, and we'll make it even fairly easy, because these creatures are pretty intent upon consuming the body of this Duergar. So we'll say, as you enter this room, and when I'm writing these things, I always write like a paragraph that can kind of be a read aloud description of the room. Most of the times I don't need this for myself, since I'm writing this and then I use them for my campaigns that I run. Most of the times I don't need this particular thing out here, but there are some nights when it's like you're getting to the end of a session, your brain just is not firing on all cylinders, you're tired, you're having a hard time coming up with descriptions of a place. And so if you have this pre-written out, at the very least you can just read this aloud. And that can be a really handy tool to just help make sure that you don't become the bottleneck of pace in your games. Like if you're just sitting there and your brain is just not catching on to how to describe this room, it's like, okay, well, we'll just read it, and it might feel a little robotic, but at least it will be done and it will be described. So we'll just say something along the lines of, as you enter this room, a grotesque sight meets your eyes. Meets your eyes. 4 of the giant tarantula-like steeders stand crowded around a single spot in the room. The clacking and gnashing sounds of their spider-like mandibles fills your ears, and those of you who take a closer look notice the corpse lying in the center of this circle of giant arachnids. As one steeder, we're gonna get real gross with this one. This is gonna be great. As one steeder lifts its head from the body, you are certain you see a hand disappearing into the mouthpiece. Mouthpiece. Oh, it's because I'm doing mouthpiece, that's why. Mouthpiece. Into the mouthpiece before it returns to the feast at hand. Boom, we can do something like that. Just to like really describe how grotesque this is. And like we're getting later into the campaign, and so I'm really getting less and less afraid of presenting these like really startling scenes to players, because we've kind of adjusted them to the mindset like, oh, we're entering some pretty dark places here, especially with this one going into the underground area. So I'm getting much more willing to describe these really uncomfortable scenes for them. I mean, not uncomfortable in the sense of making people want to quit the game, but you know what I mean. Just really don't shy away from making things seem quite gross and horrible. Hey, Spesh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here, my man. Heck yeah. But yeah, I think we can do that, and I don't know that we need to write a whole lot else here. Why is my cursor not matching up with where I'm writing stuff? Okay, this is gonna get weird. We'll have to see what happens there. I 100% believe you. I 100% believe you, my friend. Either way, regardless of your motives, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your fanship, your support. That makes more sense. Appreciate you being here. All right. Turns to the oops. That needs to say I am. My goodness. Fe. I am. Okay. I am already having a lot of difficulty with what is going on with my cursor here. All right. I don't know why it's being weird. We'll see. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been having fun experimenting with the different overlays, with all this stuff, and I don't know. It's just that's just my style. I think they're fun, and this one, just doing the like little pixelated, nice and chill thing, seemed to just kind of fit the whole writing atmosphere. So here we are. All right, so we've got it so they can deal with the feast at hand here. And yeah, I don't, okay, hold on. I'm just going to try switching to a different window and switching back and see if that will, I don't know why my cursor, are you guys seeing that? Can you guys see that the freaking cursor doesn't match up? See, this is the one thing about OneNote I will say. It acts weird. It does weird things sometimes. And I don't always understand why it does those weird things. Let's try going to like a different page. Okay, so now our cursor is back to matching up. Okay, so let's go back to this one. And we're back. And that's all it took. And it makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason. It just does these things sometimes. Hey, it's True Blue. Good to see you. Welcome. Alright, so, okay, there we go. Got that minor annoyance handled. Alright, I don't know that we need to add any other details about the description for this room. I think it's good as it is. A lot of times I'll try to also... Maybe I will add... just a little bit of description. I always try to describe the rooms as if I were writing a one of them old school text adventure games on the computer, right? Where you then try to describe there's an exit like to the north, south, and west. You know, what do you do? I always try to describe things like that. So that way, if for whatever reason I'm playing a game where we don't have these maps perfectly available. At the very least, I'm giving them some directional options about what they can look for and what they can do. So like for this one, I'll probably say exits exits to this room can be seen to the north and south. Just add a little something like that, just so that way, you know, again, if we're doing 100% theater of the mind, we have something to work with. And so I'm going to just word it exactly like that. Exits can be seen to the north and south of this chamber. Boom, we'll do that. All right, and so now let's see here. So for the compass here, so this can be a pretty easy thing. We'll say, honestly, I'm gonna just put a DM note here, and we'll say we'll make this one pretty easy. DC 11 to find on the body of the Durgar if searching it, and we'll say. And we'll just do, I'm going to keep with the item that we've used in the past. So we can just kind of scroll up here and find what we were using. It's a cop-out, and because we've already sort of established that this item can be found within these dungeons, it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense why they would be around. So let's see. So we're just going to copy that. And we'll add a little bit of unique flair to it for all of this. Hey, Combo, how's it going? Finish spell items. So, I mean, that's always going to be an ongoing project, but I do homebrew rules and stuff like that. That's for Thursday streams. Today we're working on campaign. So I kind of mix it up on what I do. I think I've got little descriptions on my schedule page. You can see on the schedule page kind of what we're working on as far as writing goes on any given day. So we will be back to that, but later this week. All right, let's see here. Whoops, we need to go back to our black text here. As you search through what's left of this body, you don't find much of value beyond a few spare, we'll say a few spare gold, and just because players will obsess over that, 3 gold pieces, and then they can deal with it not being any more than that. You don't find much of value beyond a few spare gold. However, you do find in one of the pockets one of the pins from the shops, one of the pins from the shops in the abandoned part of the city you traversed before. Boom. And since we've already kind of described that and how it works and everything like that, we can just kind of leave it as it is and let it and let ourselves go back up. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can just, or even better, actually, now I'm thinking about it, just to make it easier for ourselves, go to our first instance of describing it here, which will be way up here. You can find it. Boom. Just grab this, copy that as our DM notes, and we go all the way back down. Here we go. And then we'll just add ourselves a little bullet. Hey, it's True Blue. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you being here. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Hopefully it's got some interesting, helpful stuff for you here. Oh, are we gonna keep being weird here? Okay, it's gonna. We're doing that thing now. Okay, OneNote is on a roll today. OneNote is on a roll today of being weird. Where now it's going to have our copies and pastes and edits be invisible sometimes. So. Computers are just wonderful, magical things, aren't they? Sure, Combo, go ahead and tell me what's on your mind. I can try and give you a quick thought blast or two about whatever it is. All right, let's see here. So for room, okay, so we've got our room described. Let's go ahead and decorate it a little bit here, just so that way it's nice and fun and pretty when we come up to it here. We don't really have to do much. We'll just put in a couple of our torches as we always do. Again, I say it all the time, but for anyone who hasn't heard my my spiel on why I put torches in something that is intended to be a tunnel that's been abandoned for thousands of years, you know, Skyrim style, where it's like, hey, why are there fresh apples in this tomb? I always add this here for the sake of the online games that I run for my friends and my players. I always add these here just because a lot of times online games get kind of wonky with trying to do dark vision and all that kind of stuff. So if you just put a little bit of light here, it just makes it easier for them to be able to handle the map and see what's going on at any given time. So I just kind of do that as a courtesy to my players. If I had my way as a DM, I would totally be like really harsh about it and be like, nah, you guys got to figure all that kind of stuff out. But because it can act kind of weird and glitchy sometimes, I will a lot of times just kind of put this in here and have it there just for the sake of them having an easy time seeing the maps as they're going. So at any rate, let's see here. Let's see. We need to find a corpse here. So let's just go ahead and go to corpse. And we just got to find a random body that can just be like a person. Let's do, I don't know. I always like to try and find the ones that look particularly Family Guy-ish in how they die. Which I would say this guy with his wonky leg is kind of fitting that bill. So we'll just go ahead and like throw him down there. Blah, he died. Great. All right, let's see. What do you got? Does an immovable rod stay in space, or does it rotate with planet's axis? I like to imagine that it would stay in space, and that it would that it could turn into a very dangerous thing for a planet to have to fly through, because it's immovable and it would just be there, and it would serve as like a stationary asteroid for anything that would be rotating around it. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. But then again, it is always assumed that it does rotate around with whatever gravity well it's in. Otherwise, you would always see an immovable rod slowly drifting away as you like put it there. So I guess I'll amend that, and I guess I would say it sticks. Whatever the most powerful gravitational force, it continues to stay in place in reference to that, is what I would guess. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. But yes, this is Dungeon Draft. I also use Wonder Draft for my world maps here. I can demonstrate that. I use Wonder Draft for maps that don't require grids, like don't require having players snap to grids and interactable stuff, and then Dungeon Draft for our actual dungeons. Highly recommend both of them. I've found them to be quite wonderful. They are constantly coming up with updates and new asset packs, as well as allowing for people to make their own asset packs. So you can find a lot of people who will sell asset packs for relatively small amounts of dough. So I highly recommend them. So yeah, let's see here. Sorry, my headphones are being weird here for a second. So okay, let's see here. Let's see here. What do you got? Aircorker Ranger that sleeps in a tent around the sky. Yeah, I mean, well, okay, and here's the other thing, Combo. I think ultimately we're talking about make-believe fantasy land, so whatever serves your situation best, I think, is perfectly allowable, since it's all just made-up stuff anyway, is what I would say. But yeah, no, I would say that. Let's see here. Okay, does a movable rod, if activated in motion, gain its momentum once deactivated? See, that I would assume no. I would assume that it just stops. Like once it's activated, it stops moving, and then when you reactivate it, it moves to whatever now the current forces are on it. I would say it does not hold onto previous momentum. But yes, Ming is the king. They are one-time purchases, which is again something that's really awesome and becoming increasingly rare in today's world, which is why I absolutely love that they exist that way. It's super handy. To know that once you make an investment, you don't have to keep investing forever and ever. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, King. That's immovable rods in general are not a logical item that you can really apply real world physics to. It just doesn't work for countless numbers of reasons. So, oh man, It's good stuff. It's good stuff. All right, so looking at our checklist here, we are done with room 3. So we are making progress on everything we wanted to make progress on today. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to our next room here. Actually, you know what? Okay. I need to run to the bathroom because, as demonstrated here, I'm doing my best to keep myself hydrated. So I'm gonna take just like 2 minutes. I'll just leave you guys here. You guys can keep talking about the merits and uses of immovable rods. And I'm just gonna take like 2 minutes to run to the bathroom and refill my beverage, and I will be right back for the second hour of our rating here. So sit tight, y'all. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate your patience. So yeah, just give me a couple of minutes because my body physiology is oftentimes uncooperative with sitting still for multiple hours at a time. So I'll be right back. All right, thank you for your patience. I thank you, my bladder thanks you, and we are ready to roll here. Did I miss anything good? Did you guys talk about anything worthwhile, or are you just being goofballs? I don't know. Well, I'll assume you guys are being goofballs. Repeat anything I missed if it's of utmost importance. If there's like legitimate questions about my processes, let me know. If you guys are still talking about immovable rods, I'll let you guys handle those politics on your own. We're all goofy goobers, yeah. Goofy goobers, yeah. Do I like home brewing? It's like all I do. I've been a world builder for the better part of a decade, just as a hobby. It's what I do, and in fact, I would do world building as a hobby, and that is what actually got me into D&D, not the other way around. Like most people get into D&D and then they get into like world building and stuff. I was the opposite. I was a world builder because I would just have fun imagining weird things. I got into it after the first time I ever saw the game Myst. I got fascinated. I was just fascinated with the concept of there being like an entire world contained within a book. And so I got really into that. And I started just sort of like as just fun writing projects, inventing parts of worlds and stuff like that. And then eventually I got into D&D, and I was like, hey, slap a few stat blocks onto the stuff that I've written, and I've got a campaign. And the rest is history. The rest is history. Here we are. But yeah. All right, let's see here. Okay, so room number 4. This room is going to be a fun one. This room is where we're going to put our our boss battle here. You can see we've got ourselves. Oops, no, wrong key. This is one we need. We've got a giant chamber here, and we're gonna put the boss battle here, and this is gonna be a Kruthic Hive Lord, which is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm kind of stoked to do this one. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So you know, writing custom classes and stuff like that, that's stuff that I am not always great help with. I am much more a world builder, like an environment builder. I have never really been able to master the art of balancing and keeping and coming up with like meaningfully unique but still balanced like class variations or race variations and stuff like that in D&D. That's just something that I've not quite really gotten the hang of, and admittedly a lot of that's for lack of effort, because I love seeing what other people come up with, but in terms of when I'm writing stuff my own, I just don't get super interested in it. I have much more fun creating worlds and environments and stuff. I just, you know, when I'm a player, I'm perfectly content to use what they've provided me or what other people will provide. So yeah, I've never been able to kind of master that part of it myself personally. Stuck for ideas, so that can be a tough part, definitely, if you're kind of getting that writer's block stuff. Though the thing I always say is, and you know, sometimes different people have different needs and functions for this, so it may or may not work for you like this. But for me, I always find that activity begets inspiration, not the other way around. So a lot of times what you need to do is just sit down and write whatever stupid, nonsensical bullshit you can come up with, and recognize that you can change any or all of it or throw any of it away. But for me, I find that as soon as I start working on something, that's what kind of clicks things and gets things going. Because at the very least, when you write something, then you have something to start with, and you can say like, that's crap, I need to do something better, or hey, this is good, let's keep going with it, right? And there automatically is your start point. So I don't know. I guess I would say start doing it that way, and just, like I say, write down whatever nonsensical crap you can come up with, knowing that, you know, you can change it in any way, shape, or form as you need to. So it's always my advice. That's always my advice for handling writer's block type of stuff. Because like I say, we get so caught up in the idea that like, oh, once I get inspiration, then I'll start writing stuff. But a lot of times if you do that, you kind of end up in that situation of analysis paralysis, where you're just like, oh, I'm still struggling to come up with a perfect idea, and you're kind of waiting for that perfect idea to exist. And so you're hesitant to write down something that you feel like is going to be imperfect. And so then you end up just like pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off and never really getting anything done. Whereas if you just sit there and you're like, okay, well, I know this idea is garbage, but it's the only idea I have, so I'm going to write it down and start from there and see if I can't turn it into something functional. And you can just kind of keep going from there. So that's what I find to be the most helpful. You know, I have a lot of stuff that, like, I will very frequently within my notebooks have to go through and clean out a bunch of stuff that I've just abandoned because I was in that mood where I was just like, I just got to get something down. And I write down some crap and it's garbage and I never come back to it. But at the very least, I got something done. And usually that leads to something more interesting that ends up staying. So that's what I would encourage. All right, for this room, for our boss battle, we need to have 2,300 experience points worth of enemies here. Hi, Kitty. Kitty, a cattail incoming. There she is. She occasionally likes to say hi and just come by. And now her tail is going because she sees birds outside the window, which means she will probably type the occasional letter as her tail is going. I know. She likes to help. She very much likes to help. So good. I'm glad it was helpful. And like I say, it's like it's a hard thing to get used to. Also, just like writing down something that you suspect or even know is not going to be sticking. But the sooner you can get yourself used to that, the sooner it is like the sooner you can get yourself used to that, the easier it will be to just always be able to write something. And that's one of the most important parts of getting anything done, is just writing down something. Because even if you write down something and change it, that's more than if you write down nothing. So yeah, just write down crap. You're not showing it to anyone. It's not your final product. You can do whatever you need to or want to do with it. You're free to do that all the time. So Crawling Chaos, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Glad you're here. Glad you're enjoying stuff enjoying what I'm working on. It's good to have you here. It's good to have everyone here. This is I honestly have so much fun doing these streams. Kruthic is Kruthic with a K or C at the end? I don't even remember. It's a K. Hive Lord. No, I have such a blast with this, and I'm glad to know that other people are enjoying this as well. All right, so this guy is worth 1,800 experience points, and then we need to give a little bit more. So there's just going to be one of those things. We can throw in. Where is it? So we can throw in. It's going to be a little. It's going to overshoot our 2,300 experience points mark a little bit. But honestly, we're talking about 5 level 5 characters. I don't think they're going to have any problem handling it. If we throw in 2 other adult Kruthics and add that 900 and bring it up to 2,700, that's 400 experience points more, but I don't think that's going to be too much for them to handle. And if it is, then you can just, as a DM, it's one of the beautiful things about being a DM. If there's something that's too much for them, that you didn't mean to, you can either take the approach of like, well, let's see if they handle the challenge, and let them feel particularly accomplished if they do that, and let them really sweat and feel the pain. Or you're the DM, and if you think that that's not going to go over well with your players for any reason, then you can always just kind of nerf their health a little bit, or you can play nice and exactly secretly have the enemy's health. You can nerf their health a little bit. One thing that I will do a lot is I will neglect to use all of their abilities. Like I will, like, supposing that we're working on something that I had originally planned to have like lair actions, but it becomes pretty obvious pretty early that those lair actions are going to really do them in. I'll a lot of times in those situations just kind of dial back the lair actions and do those like once every 5 rounds rather than once every 1 or 2 rounds, depending on what the actions are and what's permissible. So like I'll do that a lot. Or like, one thing that I've done is like if there's an enemy that will cause corrosive damage that can destroy weapons and stuff like that, and I really want those weapons, but I'm worried that's going to be too much for my players, I'll just neglect to have that corrosive part of it, and if players want to get rules lawyery about it and look it up and ask about that, I'll be like, oh, I just had something different in mind, so I didn't include that part of it. And you can kind of do stuff like that. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that on the front of running a game, because the most important thing to remember always is that we're trying to have fun with our players. And not every group is going to like the idea of their character dying, especially if we're well into a campaign that they've invested a whole lot of time and energy into. And so if you just kind of keep that in mind about your players and know how to manage that, it can be really easy to manage these things. So with that in mind, I usually don't shy away from planning a dungeon or a room that might be a little bit more than original, because I can always dial it back again on the fly. There's really no problem with doing that type of thing. So yeah, exactly. That's the other thing too. If someone wants to get rules lawyery when you're giving them a break, you can always be like, okay, fine, I won't give you a break, and you can make them do that. There's no doubt about that. And I've done that before, but I've been really lucky in that I really have not had many experiences with like problematic types of rules lawyers. Sometimes rules lawyers can be really helpful, and I actually really appreciate them being around a lot of times, because as a DM you have so much that you're trying to juggle, that having someone who's not like aggressive or snotty about it can be really, really helpful, right? Because they're not bogged down trying to remember what every NPC's motivations are. They can just sort of like have a lot more brain space free to just be like, oh wait, does that thing work like that? And so when you have a good rules lawyer, it can be really helpful. And I've really never, like, I've had players that will, like, on some nights, if they're in a particularly spunky mood, right, they might kind of teeter on that. But as a general rule, I haven't had any horrible rules lawyers. Although I think a lot of that is because I've never been part of a game of strangers that I met online without previously knowing in some way, shape, or form ever. I've always just played with friends, or at the very least friends of friends, right? Like been brought into a game where someone who I know and really enjoy spending time with is like, hey, I've got some other buddies from from work that wanted to start a game and we need another player, you want to join us? Things like that. And I think that helps. I think that helps me that has helped me avoid having those types of negative experiences. So I don't know, maybe that just means I'm not the best at giving advice on how to handle rules lawyers because I haven't experienced it much. I can only tell you what I would do in the face of a rules lawyer, and that's I would lead the smackdown. I would no, that's not true at all. I would never beat a human in that context. I'm a kickboxer, but like, you know, we sign waivers and get in a ring, so it's different. It's a different situation. I wouldn't do it out in the wild. Well, never say never, but I'm going to drop the subject because we could really overanalyze that one, and that does not help me get my checklist done like I was hoping to get done today. All right, boss battle. We've got a Kruthik Hive Lord and an adult Kruthik here. So I want to... I almost want to decorate this room first because I want to kind of set up a really cool, really intense, interesting battlefield here, and I've got a couple ideas on how to do that. I want to set something up, and I want to know what that's going to look like before I throw them. I start describing things. So first off, I want to scale this up quite a bit because my idea is like it's a Kruthik Hive Lord, and so I kind of want to set this up so that there's like some sort of interesting like hive type of structure around here with maybe some different tunnels and pits that these creatures can go in and out of so that they can have a bit more like free movement of the dungeon, and just sort of we can give them a bonus activity of being able to kind of, you know, hide for a round and go under and pop up in other places. And so I kind of want to create these like termite hill looking structures around here that they can pop in and out of is what I'm going for here. So I kind of want to do this, and then I want to take these holes here. I want to take these holes, which is, it's kind of an uncomfortable way to phrase things, so I'm going to avoid saying that a whole lot more. But y'all understand what I'm trying to say here. So I kind of want to just like take that one, and ooh, that one's a little too big. That's okay. I'm not gonna add anything to that one because again, this is wrong stream. This is Twitch. This is family friendly. Not really, but but if we put these, man, I'm just digging the hole deeper for myself, aren't I? All right, if we just put these here like this, and we have it be that these are little tunnels within the tunnels that they can bounce in and out of, it'd be really awesome. And the thing that's fun about these things too is there's no what I'm gonna do is describe these little tunnels that these things are coming in and out of, and there's not going to be a single thing saying that players cannot try to climb up and use these as well. And so I always put these really interesting things kind of in the hopes that my players are going to get kind of wacky with it too. Cause that would be fun. That'd be so fun. I would be all about that. I'd have a good time with that. Kitty, are you having a good time? Oh, she's having a really good time watching the birds, and I can tell because well, this is a little gross, and Kitty might be mad that I'm sharing this with you, but she can't speak English, so it'll be fine. There's totally a drool spot underneath her because she is having so much fun watching the birds on the bird feeder out there. This goofball cat. My goodness gracious. Well, I'm glad she's having a good day. I'm glad she's having a good day because this past weekend was a very traumatic one for her. She had to meet my parents' new kitten because she comes with me when I go stay with the parents, and so she has to get used to the fact that there is now a new kitty, and she was not a fan of having to do a play date. She wasn't particularly aggressive, but she was very sent a lot of warning signs to this new kitten, don't get near me, and then spent most of the weekend pouting in the back room. So it was very traumatic. It was very traumatic for her, and now we're much happier to be home and watching the birds. So I know, poor kitty. Her life is a horrible one, that she has to occasionally meet another cat for my sake while I do all of the work and provide her food and treats and water and beds and scratching posts and birds to watch outside of the window. I don't have to feed the birds, but I do it for her. I adore my cat, and I'm obsessed with her, but she's also a little turd sometimes. All right, let's see here. Boss battle. Entering this chamber elicits. How do you spell illicit? Elicits. It's because I'm using the wrong illicit. That's what it is. Elicits. That's what's happening here. Entering this chamber. I was never an English major. My profession and my professional training is all in science. I don't know how to write. I'm just making it up as I go. But case in point, anyone can be a writer. You just have to believe in yourself and have spell check. Entering this chamber elicits a sense of awe. Like awe? No, a sense of awe from you. In contrast to the rest of these tunnels, which have been confined and claustrophobic, this chamber is absolutely massive. So we'll say the ceiling towers no less than, we'll say 30 feet. That's pretty big. That's like a 3-story house. It towers no less than 30. Oh, would it be no less or no fewer? I don't want to invoke the ire of the internet here. I don't know if it's less or fewer, but we're just going to say less. No, it would be fewer because a foot is a discrete measurement thing. Towers no fewer. There, see, I figured it out. Or maybe I figured it out wrong. I don't know. I'm not an English major. Leave me alone. The ceiling towers no fewer than 30 feet above. Yeah, I think most people have no idea. My understanding is if it's like a discrete measurement, you say fewer. If it's something that can be like subdivided like an infinite amount, then it's less than. So it's like a tank of gas. Like supposing you're filling your tank of gas in your car, right? You can have an infinitely small amount of like change in that in theory, right? So you could say less than a full tank of gas, right? But like a second is a discrete measurement that like you can technically subdivide a second, but we think about a second as like a specific unit. So you would say fewer than 10 seconds. But then again, time tends to be one of those ones that can differ because no one would say it's incorrect to say less than 10 seconds, right? Because like it's in that sense you're thinking about time, which like temporally you can have an infinitely small amount. I don't know. It's confusing. But the rule of thumb is if it's a defined measurement, right? So like that's where the fewer than like 12 or fewer items comes in because you can't buy half an item, right? You're buying the item or you're not. So it would be fewer than 12 items. Right, whereas like I say with like if you, like you have your bottle of water, you would say it's less than full, right, rather than fewer than full, because grammatically that one doesn't even make sense anyway. But I don't know, I'm belaboring the point, and this is not helping me achieve my checklist for the day. The ceiling tower is no fewer than 30 feet above your heads, and at the highest point you can actually see where the tunnel opens up to a skylight above, and we'll add some extra light there because I have a half in mind. At some point in time, the kind of the end of this chapter is with them trying to get back from this vault, this underground tunnel system. But part of the tunnel system is going to collapse and prevent them from taking the same way back. And so I have half a mind to make them use this chamber and have to climb out of here somehow as like their exit to get out to the surface out of these collapsed tunnels. And so I kind of want to make a point of describing this here. Also because it just makes the room stand out, makes it seem a bit more interesting for a battle. So can you, yeah, you can kind of see right on the corner. You can see like right here, right on the corner. You can kind of see my cat's tail, and she's, I don't know if it's picking up on the mic, but she's chattering at the birds right now. It's so funny. She's really into it right now. Anyway. Opens up to a skylight above. On the ground, all around you, you can see multiple massive rock structures that look like stalagmites that tower over your heads. And so now I'm going to put a little DM note here, and I'm just going to say, and this is where I love to kind of mess with my players a little bit. The Kruthix don't activate until the players have explored the room a bit. The idea is that the vibrations from their footsteps attract the monsters to this chamber. Is what we'll do there. So we'll put a little DM note there just to give ourselves pause and remind ourselves that we got to do that. And again, as always, we make it red so that way, that's my signal to myself. This. Don't tell the players this, dum-dum. Like, this stuff is secret. So we'll say, and so then after the DM note, that's when we can kind of, after they've explored and done that, then we can chime in. Suddenly, you feel the ground vibrating around you. The vibrations grow stronger until they seem to be. Oh man, even I can see the bird right now. Look at that. Yeah, do you see the bird? Look, it's one of them. It's one of them tufted titmice. That's what it is. It is. Yeah. I talked to my bird and I describe all the different bird breeds to her. My bad. I'm a crazy person. Okay, just accept it. Let's see. The vibrations grow stronger until they seem to be pinpointed to a few places in the room. Suddenly, out of 3 of the natural spires burst 3 Kruthix. One larger than any you've ever seen before. Cue Pokemon battle music. Alright, great. So that's kind of how I want to structure it. And then battle ensues, fight. And now I got to come up with a reason, because randomly the dice decreed that the reward for this room, and this is how I like to mess with my players. I always make sure that pretty much every room has some sort of reward for them. That's just my way. Like I say, I don't like my players to get in the habit of skipping rooms because they feel like there's probably nothing to gain. But the flip side of it is, I don't always make it so that the boss has the most important item. So for this one, it's just going to have some potions. And so what I'm going to say is, we'll say, let's see here, potions for our reward here. And what we'll say is, whoops, no, control, underline, that's what I needed to do. Let's see here, as you take the time to examine the room, you slowly start to find various remnants. Remnants. Oh, because I did remnants. That's not the word. Remnants. You find various remnants of various people who died at various times. I don't know. It's kind of a jarringly humorous way to put it, but whatever. Most of their possessions. Wow. Possessions. There it is. Wow, why can't I spell today? Here. Just a computer handle it for me. Just help me spell better. Most of their possessions have long since been scattered or destroyed by the various creatures of the tunnels, we'll say. However, one of the bodies that you find you find has a satchel with a few intact potion bottles. Boom, there we go. Alright, and then we can just sort of describe some of the potions that they'll find here. I always like to give my players 3 potion of, I always give them like 3 healing potions, and like how powerful that potion is very dependent on what level the players are, at least what the intended level of the area is. So at this point, since they're all level 5, I'm going to give them greater healing potions. So potion of greater healing, we'll do that. And then I like to have I always give them 5 potions, right? So like 1 potion for each person. So 3 healing potions just to sort of help them, you know, have some fun items and be able to do that there. And like, because I run my games so that we have to pay attention to how long they've been in a dungeon for the sake of items and long rests and stuff like that. And so since I limit that, I try to give them extra health items, so that way they're not like really in trouble for that kind of stuff. You know, it's like as long as they're thorough and looking through rooms, they can find what they need to get through. So I always give them a few health potions, and then I like to give them a few like toys, like just a few potions that like, usually I try to keep it kind of thematic to whatever the dungeon we're working on is. But just potions that give them extra power. So like for this one, because we're in tunnels that are filled with spiders, I'm absolutely going to give them 2 potion of spider climb. So that way they can be like Spider-Man if they want to do it. They can be like the human spider and fight Bonesaw. Just so that way they can have some toys to play with. Because after all, it's a game. It's a game. They should be able to play while playing the game. Obvi. So, okay. So we've got that described and written out. I like that room. Let's go ahead and do our light tool. Because we're doing a skylight, I'm going to make the skylight kind of bigger and a little bit bigger, and then a different color than what we've been doing for the rest of it. So we'll go ahead and do that. So just to make it a little off center. Because, you know, like, what thing in nature is always perfectly centered? Oh, man. That's going real insane now. A squirrel showed up on the deck. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's the big one right there. All right, anyway. Cat update aside. I really should get a secondary cam so that we can do a cat cam. Just like a camera that somehow, in some way, shape, or form, I can always point at her so you guys can see what goofy thing she's up to. Everyone loves that, right? Everyone loves cats. Like, I would get more viewership just by putting my cat on screen than by continuing to do myself on screen. Like, I have no doubt about that. And that's not even something that makes me upset. Like, I get it. I totally get it. Cats, without trying, are far more charismatic than people are. That's just how it goes. I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah, if you want, if you go to my About page, there's a donation link there. If you want to help me, if you want to help us achieve cat cam, go make a donation. That's it right there. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, I know. That's 100% it. That's 100%. Like it's magic too. It's magic that viewership goes up when you have your cat with you, because the thing is it's not like I put in the description that my cat is part of it. They just, like, somehow the world knows. Maybe the algorithms just sort of like feature things that they can see, like the machine can tell that there's a cat on camera, and that just like and it does that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know. Don't even worry about it. I genuinely have a donation page because people have asked me about it, but I don't take myself seriously enough to actually feel comfortable like genuinely asking for donations. Like, it's true that I would love to, at some point in my life, be able to have at least like streaming be part of my regular income. There's no doubt about it that I would love that, but I struggle with taking myself seriously enough to actually like do the whole properly marketing myself thing. So that's why it's a donation page rather than like a Patreon, to try and convince people to like regularly contribute. And it's probably a self-fulfilling prophecy, the fact that I don't take myself seriously enough and therefore it doesn't happen. But it's like, it's there. And so it's, for me, it's just always like, if people like what I'm doing and they want to help me be able to do more of it someday, then donations can go there for me to like slowly build up better cameras and more cameras for cat cams and better mics and all that kind of stuff, just to like slowly increase the quality for it to be something for people to, you know, help me achieve things. But yeah. Yeah, see, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that making a living off of Twitch is a really hard thing to do. Like, the smarter approach, if you want Twitch to be part of your career, the smarter thing to do is to have Twitch be advertisement for something else that you do. Yeah, exactly. Unless you're like one of the top guys that has like 50,000 people watching at any given time, it's not a viable income source. The better approach is to look at it as like an advertisement. Like musicians who stream live when they're writing music or playing music, their real income comes from the other parts of being a musician. And like Twitch can be a really good way to engage with an audience and build your audience. But yeah, exactly. Like, you need to be doing other content. Like, for me, if I were to want this to seriously be a career option for myself, I would probably start working a lot harder to publish the things that I write that people are interested in, and use the stream as a way to advertise those things, so people can kind of get samples of it and say like, oh, I like this adventure he's working on. Then I can like sell it on our like Drive Through RPG or something like that. Like, that's what I would probably do if I were going to really start doing it seriously. And I've thought about it, but I don't know. Like, my big thing is I just really like doing this. I have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, YouTube is a really good way to do it. Like, being more consistent with YouTube and using Twitch as a way to sort of supplement that. Like, really just like Twitch is a better income supplement than a primary income. Like, that's the way to view it. And I think the people who are really successful kind of recognize that, and they have they have eggs in other baskets than Twitch. Because as awesome as Twitch is, and like Twitch is one of my favorite things to do, because I feel like Twitch for me is really low effort. Like, I just sit on here and I talk about the things that I would be doing otherwise. So I feel like it's really low effort, but it's also very low reward in general. So, but I don't know. That's not meant to be a knock on anything. Like, it's not meant to be a knock on viewers for not donating enough or anything like that. Like, that's what it is. That's what it is, and I'm fine with that. That's why I continue to do it. That's why I've been doing it for over a year and having a blast doing it. I love streaming, and if it ever did become part of my income, awesome. But I am not relying on that. I have a lot of other things going on in my life to make sure my bills get paid, and that's how I view it. But anyway, enough pulling back the curtain here. I've got like 20 minutes left on the stream that I wanted to try and get 2 more rooms done here. But as I predicted would happen with myself, because it always happens, I got too wrapped up in talking and having fun with that and not getting stuff done. Yeah, I'm with you there. I am much more comfortable like being on screen and trusting my sense of humor and trusting my personality in general since being on Twitch. Like, the fact that I get followers most days these days when I stream, like, I'll get more followers most days. Like that in and of itself has done wonders just for my self-esteem. As someone who struggles with depression a lot, it's been a wonderful thing for me to just see, like, I mean, like, it sounds weird to talk about an ego boost helping, but it kind of has been that. Like, it's been a bit of an ego boost just in the sense of, like, oh, there are people who do like my personality. I don't have to view myself as some awkward, worthless human being. Like, people are capable of liking me. I'm a likable individual. And it's like, you know, and that's part of the reason why I want to stream, is just to, like, demonstrate, like, hey, I'm just some dude, and like people like me, like, and I struggle with real things like depression and stuff, and so anyone else struggling with that can probably find out the same things about themselves if you go looking for it. So here we are. Okay, easy battle here. Hold on, where's this room located? This is room 5 right here. I kind of want to throw in a couple Kruthiks for this one, just as like a warm up for this, and I feel like room 6 I'll probably do the same thing. Yeah, with medium battle. Let's have these focus on Kruthix quite a bit. So we're gonna do 2 adult Kruthix, which is a little bit more than our 800. That's 900 experience point, but I've already kind of discussed why I'm okay with doing that. So 2 adult Kruthic, and that's going to be, they're each worth 450 XP. So let's see here. So we do that. Yeah, exactly. I think, well, and like that's like the good side of the internet in general. Like, I have a very love-hate relationship with the internet, because I think the internet just it magnifies everything. And so one of the things that's good about it is it really magnifies and gives a platform to people who have a lot to contribute, but like have a hard time getting out there and contributing that in sort of like old school conventional ways, if that makes sense. And so I really like, that's one of the things I love about the internet, is that like it helps bring people together, and it helps them find their community and their audience, when, you know, that audience is smaller than what is able to be found in a small town of just like 3,000 people, right? Like, it really opens up the world for that. And that's one of my favorite things about the internet and the connectedness of this world today. I mean, sometimes that's problematic, because then we have like really bad communities that shouldn't have more people, like hateful communities. But in general, I think when used properly, it's great. Yeah, exactly. It's a really good way for people to encourage each other and find, and like it's a really good way to find people who need encouragement and to provide that. You know, like that's the type of stuff that's really wonderful about it, and like why I love streaming, because it's like, who would have thought that people would love to sit here and watch me discuss the ways I go about writing homebrew stuff, you know? And yet here I am. People do like it. And it's like, it's such a small niche, there's no way I would ever find it within my town alone. But the fact that the internet allows me to reach out to people across the world who are interested in that kind of stuff, then hey, you know, I've got this little thing going where it's like a like hyper specific D&D writing Bob Ross type show, where I'm just like sitting here doing stuff, and you can follow along if you like, and we're just like generally encouraging each other to be creative. And it's like, hey, that's pretty rad. I feel pretty happy and lucky that I get to do that with my time. That's a pretty cool thing. Let's see here, an easy battle here. If we're just gonna do 2 Kruthics here, I kind of want to just have 2 of them, and we can just kind of almost copy and paste what we did up here, where it's just like there's a couple of them like picking away at something, like a body or something like that. I don't know. Let's see here. I do want to put in a note here. The Kruthics are attentive to their surroundings. So DC 14, up the difficulty a bit. DC 14 to not be noticed. So it's like it's possible, but gonna be difficult here. And so, oh, you know what actually would be really cool? Here's how I want to describe this one. How I want to describe this one. As you enter this room, a strange sight meets your eyes. 2 large Kruthics are within, and they appear to be digging, as if trying to build a new tunnel of some sort. There we go. We'll just give them a little slice of life, thing. Like, you just kind of caught them in the act there. Yeah, no, I feel you for sure. Like, it's totally fine. It's like I say, if I didn't want distractions, then I wouldn't stream myself writing. I love the conversation. I think I've had so many really cool conversations on Twitch. That's like why I really like it. But no, I feel you. I think the internet, I think it's a dangerous double-edged sword, because I think if you rely only on the internet, that's when people will sometimes find themselves realizing that maybe they're not as connected to the world as possible as they could be, like, because they don't get out and interact with people face to face. But the flip side of it is in situations where face to face is not possible, internet allows for there to still be social interactions and stuff like that. So I think you have to use it in proper moderation and be attentive to it. But I think the internet can be a very powerful tool for helping people connect and not feel as isolated depending on the situation. Like I think so many more people would have been so much worse off through, especially the beginning of COVID, when everyone was only hiding inside and we didn't know what to do. And so like that was the only way people saw their families for like a year, you know? So it's like in that situation, I think it's great. But then the flip side of it is I think a lot of people who forget to interact with the world outside, that can lead to people feeling like they don't know what to do with themselves, you know, when the internet isn't an option. You know, it's like when your online D&D group falls apart, then what do? It's like that's why you need the real life things. And so that's why I think there's an important balance to it. But in general, I agree with you that I think the internet is such a wonderful way to help people get connected when they otherwise couldn't do that. So let's see. I want to just add a little description here for this one. Yeah. So this room, there's only the 2 exits, and so we'll just go ahead and describe that. Here we'll say, so 2 large crew thicks are. I'm actually going to change this a little bit. Are in the southern part of this room. Some sort. 2 exits. 2 exits can be found on the north end. 1 leading west and 1 leading east. There we go. There's our good description there. Okay, so now this one. So this room, the item here is I put enchantment here. I have a homebrew system. Where I allow my players, rather than giving them magical items, I prefer to give them components so that they can create their own magical items. And so I kind of am working on a loose structure of there are all of the pieces they need to make one specific magical item that I have in mind, but they can take any of those crafting pieces and use them in any way that they want. And so in this one, we're making a like a warhammer of sorts, because it's a dwarf, right? Like that makes perfect sense. It's a dwarven area, so. I got to go up and double check and see what all we've already put in there. But that's what is meant there. So we'll say enchantment component. I always just like letting my players kind of create their own magical items, because it just makes it much more fun and interesting, because they can use that, like they can do that in the way, like in the sense of they can modify their existing weapons and stuff too, to make them like they're like family heirloom sword handed to me by my father and to him from his father, going down generations. They can then make that item better, rather than just being like, look, Grandpa, I love your sword, but God, this one's just got like that sweet gold inlay, and they just like chuck that really important family heirloom out. It's like I always feel like that's anticlimactic. So it's like I let my players modify their weapons instead of giving them different ones, which seems to be a pretty good crowd pleaser. So let me just see what other components we've already given them, and I gotta go kind of slow because my cat's half in front of my screen right now, and I don't want to bother her. She was so mad at me after this weekend. I'm kind of just like, she's happy, so I kind of want to not bother her right now. Let's see here. This one. Okay, so this one. So we gave them the blueprints for how to make the hammer. Blueprints. I don't know. It's not exactly the right word, but I couldn't think of anything different, and I'm not going to change it now because it amuses me. This one we said. So this one was tools and supplies, including a pile of raw ingots that could be used to craft large objects of some sort. So that's like the metal for the hammer head. And then what did we give in this one here? Where is it? Did I already pass it? There we go. Yeah. So this one. So this one was this was the book to help them discover it. So I think so. Then what's left is the actual enchantment token, and I was going to and so the enchantment token itself is what they can use to kind of create the magical component of it. And then the last one was going to be making like the shaft of the hammer, which the last portion of this dungeon is them going to be above ground going through the woods, and so naturally they're going to find some cool, like really good quality wood to be able to do that. So we're going to give them a token here. And my first thought is to do I'm going to go over into D&D Beyond here, and we're just going to go through the spells and check it out, because my first thought is to do some sort of like earth moving spell or something like that. So I'm just going to do earth here and see what comes up. Because, let's see here, Bones of the Earth, Earth Tremor. Yeah, so like something like a Hammer of Earth Tremor sounds rad, doesn't it? Like, that sounds so freaking cool. I want to try and, they're all going to be level 5, so I kind of want to try and target for like a second level spell, but a first level wouldn't be the worst. There's a tremor in the ground within range. Each creature other than you in that area must make a dex. Like, see, that would be such a cool hammer. It'd be such a cool hammer if, like, once per day you can cast Earth Tremor when you use it. So, like, that's the idea. What's Earth Bind here? What does this one do? Those strips of magical energy loop around the creature. Target must succeed on a strength saving throw or its flying speed. If any is reduced to 0 feet for the spell's duration. An airborne creature. Yeah, so like that's not really what we're looking for. That doesn't do it. Earth Tremor is kind of more to it, especially because you can cast it at higher levels, so they can really make it level 2 if they want to. So it's during my homebrew rules streams, which are Thursdays. I actually sit down and I go through the process of like reshaping existing spells into how they might look as an imbibement on an item, and so we'll actually do that at a later time. But for right now, I'm just going to say Token of Earth Tremor, and we'll just put that as a note or a placeholder here. And I'm just gonna make this one kind of an interesting, just like kind of a real wonderment. We'll say. Let's go ahead and do DC. We'll just make it pretty easy. DC 12 to notice it on the ground. And we'll go ahead and say just a real simple description here that's like lying on the ground, half covered in dirt. You see what appears to be a singular coin. On one side is etched a picture that appears to be a crack appearing in the ground. And you just kind of do that, and it's like the tokens are like, they can feel that there's something magical about the token, and they can see that there's something there. And then if they go through the crafting process, which we have some rules about, they can then imbue that spell. They can like basically attach that coin, that token, to the item that they're wanting to attach it to, and create like an item of Earth Tremor or whatever. So yeah, we'll say enchantment. We'll make this in the DM notes here. This token has the spell Earth Tremor in it for use during crafting and imbuing. Boom. There we go. Simple as that. Don't need to do much more. This room, we really don't need to do much decorating here. This is just a pretty empty room. So we'll just go ahead and do our torches, which is helpful. That'll help us be a bit quicker about things, since I'm trying to I got 10 minutes to get one more room done. I mean, I've got all the time in the world that I want to. It's my stream. I can do what I want. But in 10 minutes, I'm supposed to be taking my break so we can switch over to my video game stream. So that's the reason I'm doing it, just because I'm trying to stick to my own schedule here. But I also want to get my checklist done too, because I gave this whole spiel about the importance of putting a little bit of time pressure on yourself so you don't dilly-dally too much. And what have I done all stream? I've dilly-dallied. Here I am. I just like talking with you guys so much. You guys got cool ideas. It's fun to chit-chat about stuff. You know, I am who I am. I can't help it. All right, we got room 5 done. Let's just quickly get room 6 done here. It does not need to be intense. Medium battle with treasure. This will be pretty easy, all things considered. Medium battle, and so we already have one medium battle, and I just like to try and make sure that they're not all the same. So we did 4 of our steeders. Wait, hold on, what did I say? Okay, oh, I did that wrong. I goofed up on that one. We're gonna have to edit that room, but we'll do that later. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna highlight this. I'm realizing I just kind of goofed that up. Highlight that because I gotta change it, but that's not on today's to-do list, so I'm not gonna get distracted with it. Medium battles are supposed to have 1550 experience points, or somewhere thereabouts. We'll edit it if we need to. 50 XP. And then, so if we got 1550, I mean, we can do... I kind of want to stick with the Kruthix. If we do 3 of them, that'll be... okay, so 2 of them is 900, plus another one that'll be 1350. It's a little shy, but we can, when we edit this one, we can add a few extra, and we already have some other more difficult ones. So we're just going to do 3 adult Kruthix in this one. 3x, adult, Kruthic. There we go. Let me take a quick peek at this room here. Well, this is a very tiny one. This is going to be a cramped battle. This is going to be a real cramped battle. So here's what we'll do. This will be fun. DC 14 to sneak in because the Kruthics are distracted. And we'll say before you even enter this room. And this will work out well because I think, yeah, this is going to be a bottleneck here. They have to go through this room to move on. So this will be a fun one that they have to deal with. And I like that. Sometimes it's fun to bottleneck and force the issue for your players. So before you even enter this room, you can tell that something big and angry is in it, as screeching can be heard echoing along the tunnels. When you reach the room, you can see quite plainly what the source of the noise is. 3 Kruthics fill this small chamber, apparently fighting over something. Whether it's an object or dominance or anything else is beyond your ability to comprehend. Because they're monsters, they're creatures, they just react. So they're just fighting. They're in there fighting already. And that's a fun one too, because a lot of times, like with my players, a lot of times they'll let that fight play out, and they like to just sort of like watch me do the rolls, and they'll like pick one to root for, and they'll let me just kind of handle a lot of it to a certain degree. And I'm totally fine with them doing that if they choose to. But then I'll always add a little thing there where it's like, if that's what they do, they basically sacrifice their ability to get any sort of like sneak attack in there. So it's like, okay, they can sit and watch, but then as soon as one of the Kruthics notices them and then gets distracted, they've lost their opportunity to get like a free round of attacks while they're distracted. So yeah, exactly. Fight. Kick his ass, Brad. But you know, I like to add those types of things. I like to, in general, try and design my dungeons and my enemies so that they have their own stuff going on. It makes things a lot more interesting and like realistic for players if they feel like they're intruding on a world that is existing without them. I really like providing that for my players. And that's my personal style. And like I always say, it seems to go over well, so I keep doing it. But all right, so then the reward for this room is just going to be some treasure. These are one of the easiest ones to do. We'll just say shoved in a corner, apparently forgotten by all, including time, just to make it kind of poetic, is a small chest. When you handle it, it seems to be filled with something. And we'll just make it locked so that they have to lockpick it. We'll say DC 14 to unlock. Or we'll say DC 14 to unlock, or AC 14 to... I'm not even going to do that to unlock. Honestly, ultimately, I almost never give a door or an inanimate object like actual hit points or like a DC, because so rarely is it important. Because if it's just a matter of like hit something until it breaks, then it's just like, why bother rolling it? It's like either they can break it or they can't. There's no reason just sitting here wasting time making them roll it. The only situation in which it really matters is if there's a locked door and they're actively trying to run away from something. But that is such an uncommon occurrence. And honestly, because that's more cinematic than actually mechanical, that's a really easy one to just sort of ad-lib and say like, yeah, give me an attack roll. And it's like, oh, I rolled a 13. Good enough. Okay, like how much damage do you do? And you just kind of wing it for the sake of the drama. You know, and that like happens so rarely because usually players will either face down the threat and kill it, or they'll just change directions and do something different. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's the worst. And like, if you want to see that sort of weird awkwardness in action, stick around for me playing video games today, because today on Mondays I'm going through the old school Neverwinter Nights, where they require that you sit there and go through like the rolls for bashing chests and doors and stuff. So it just turns into you just like sit there and wait until the game says like, okay, yep, you broke it now. And it's like, because it removes all tension, because it's like, I'm just going to sit there and kill any monsters first. So I really don't ever incorporate that. There might be a specific reason when I will, but for the most part, I just don't. It just doesn't serve, you know? It doesn't serve a purpose like most people intend it to, so I just don't bother. But in terms of what's in there, that's easy enough to do. I use this tool, this 5e.tools/lootgen. It's really handy. All it does is it automatically rolls from the Dungeon Master's Guide tables. It'll automatically roll those for you. So it's all the rules as written, just it saves you time. And so I'll just do that, and I'll always set the challenge rating to whatever the highest challenge of a monster in there is, in that dungeon is. So that way all of the rewards feel kind of worth it, regardless of if it accidentally gets put with like an easy battle versus a hard battle. It's just like, whatever it is, that's what it's worth. That's what this dungeon is worth to the player. So like the adult Kruthic, we can go up and check here, or the Kruthic Hive Lord. That's a, where is it? Challenge 5. So we can use our 5 to 10 loot thing. That's how I do it. It's kind of arbitrary because you can just again change like prices of things, and especially for me in my games, because I incorporate so much crafting into it, it kind of becomes arbitrary, and money isn't super important. But you know, just change it however you need it for your game, and it'll work out just fine. So 3508 GP gold in there, and then what else do we have here? Oops, wrong tab. This one right here. So 6 100 gold gemstones. Oh, and they get some magical items too. It's like, forget it. Yeah, we'll give that to him. So 6 100 GP gems, and we'll say 600 GP value total. I always put the total, and I still itemize the things, just so that way whatever group I'm leading, whenever I end up running this campaign one day, if they like to itemize the things, I'm prepared for it. But if they don't care, I can just give them the gold value and call it good. Some groups are really into that itemization. Other groups could not care less. And I will defend anyone's right to choose which they prefer, because there really is not a right or wrong answer to it. It's just what the group wants to do. So we've got a garnet, 3 amber, a coral. So garnet, 3 amber, coral, and then the other one, chrysoberyl, was that what it was? Chrysoberyl, did I spell that right? Oh, look at me go. Look at me go, redeeming myself for my spelling challenges earlier. Look at me go. Freaking spelling bee champ over here. Alright, and then magical items, just because there's so much stuff going on here. I will give them these magical items, and just let them do with it as they will. We'll paste it. This is going to take some reformatting here really quickly, because that's one thing about using that tool, is if you try and copy and paste things, it gets kind of weird. See, you know what? I'm changing my mind. I don't like the way the roll has been weird. We're just gonna give them. I changed my mind. I'm already doubling back, but it's like, I don't know. It's getting kind of weird with some of those items. It's just saying a +1 longsword and stuff, which is kind of fine, but I don't know. That's not how I run my games. So there you go, right there. We roll it off of table G. Let me just see here. Can we let's re-roll these things. Wand of Fireballs. Stone of Controlling Earth Elementals. Yeah, see, those are much more on board with what I'm interested in. Stone of Awareness. Yeah. Stone of Controlling Earth Elementals. Yeah, that's a much better mix for how I run my games. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. We'll say magic. Well, I'm not even going to say that. We're just going to paste it here. And I got to just reformat things a little bit here. I will, oops, yeah, see, I did it. I will pretty much get rid of all of the links there because it's just for me, and you can look them up in the handbook, because the formatting that it uses is just kind of weird and frustrating here. So we're going to, oh, this is not gonna, oh my goodness gracious, OneNote, work with me here. Work with me here, OneNote. It's, okay, is it gonna not let me do it for all of them at once? Okay. Fine, then we'll do it one at a time. I'll get what I want out of you, OneNote. One way or another, you will not win this one. Actually, you know what we can do with this one, because we have 2 of these stones of controlling earth elementals. There. 2 stones of control earth elementals. There we go. The only thing else that I need to do here is I just want to make sure I've got my... Okay, it's going to be weird about it. See, the formatting is weird, but there we go. Okay, there's our treasure chest. There's our treasure chest. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. Check it off. We did it. Look at me. I actually made the progress I intended to make today. Huzzah. I did it. You guys are my witnesses. I was actually productive today. It happened. All while still being sociable and able and willing to chit chat with all of you guys, because you guys are all rad and I like chit chatting with you. So there we go. All right, so we got that done. So let me. So I'm gonna do my little announcement spiel. What's gonna happen? I'm gonna take like a 15-minute break or so, just to rest my voice a little bit. Then I'll be back, and we're gonna play some Neverwinter Nights. So if you want to see me playing a D&D-esque game, stick around for that. We're going to do that. If not, that's totally fine. I understand everyone's got different things that they have to do with their day, different things they want to watch. I get it. Just sort of in case you aren't sticking around, I'll give just sort of the spiel about all my different links and all that kind of stuff. You can find all the links to all my different like social media stuff on my About page, on my Twitch page there. But just what you'll find there, I do have a Discord, so if you want to chat and share other things, you can go check out the Discord. I also put a lot of announcements there about, if there's going to be changes to upcoming streams and stuff like that. It's a good place to do that. I also have a Twitter where I put announcements about starting streams if my schedule has to change and stuff like that. You can check out the Twitter. I have a YouTube page, so if you want to see all of the VODs from past videos I've done, see other things that I've written about, if you want to see other games that I played and all that kind of stuff, you can feel free to check out that YouTube page. Maybe one of these days I'll put other videos on there right now, but as well. But as of right now, I don't know how to video edit it, so that's there. Hey, thanks for joining the Discord. I'll get you verified soon enough. Next chance I get, I'll get you verified. But we have those. I also have an Instagram where I will share things like photos of my cats, videos of me doing kickboxing or rock climbing, stuff like that. Things that like come up in stream but don't actually show up on stream. If people seem interested, I kind of use it. I'm kind of trying to learn how to use my Instagram for that. It's brand new. I'm not good at using it. But there's that. So if you want to see some of the other slice of life stuff that I do, you can check that out. Feel free to get involved in that. And then the last one that I have, the last thing that I have is I've got my, I do have my donation link. I already mentioned it, but there's that donation link. If you do like what I'm doing and you want to help me slowly build this and have like better equipment and just be better at streaming and do more of it in general, if you want to do that, you can make donations. I will put any donations back into this stream to try and grow it and make myself better and produce more cool content for you guys that you like, but obviously not required. So that's all of my links. I see you there, Combo. You can, if you want to stop by during the video game stream, you can do that. Otherwise, share it in the Discord and we can talk more about immovable rods. But as I said, I'm going to take a break. For the rest of this week. As far as writing goes, so my usual schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Writing starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and then usually video games start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And writing should be the same. It should be exactly all of that schedule the rest of this week. Video games tomorrow is going to be a little different. I'm going to be starting a lot later. I'll probably be starting that at around like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For my day job, I have a meeting that got scheduled in the middle of the day. It's the worst time to schedule a meeting, but people in my office are weird about that. So I will be changing my video game stream, but everything else will be following that schedule. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Writing starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and then video games starting at 1:30 p.m. is the standard. So, okay, that's all my self-plugs. That's everything I've got there for you guys. Thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. This was a really fun stream today. A lot of cool conversations, a lot of good questions and discussions about stuff. I really dig it. Really dig you guys. You guys are all super cool peeps. And yeah, I appreciate you. So like I say, if you want to stick around and watch me doing some video games, feel free. If not, I totally get it. There's a lot of other cool D&D streamers and stuff out there. Maybe you want to go check those out. Whatever you got going in your life, I get it. I just appreciate that you were here while you were here. And yeah, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, and I will be back shortly. So yeah, see you soon.